Good evening, family. This is your girl, Pastor Denisha, and I'm so glad to be here tonight for She Slays Summer once again. Can y'all see me? Looks like I went. Okay, I'm back. I went away. Um, the screen went black for just a second. I'm so excited for another Monday in the month of August where we get to present some of the wonderful voices that are going to be a part of this year's Convergence 2026. And it is my honor to introduce Minister Karina Stewart. And I thought about this because you were at the original She
Uh-huh.
Slays, right?
Yep,
So when I
absolutely.
sent out the email, I said, she been slaying. So been saying, Minister Karina, would you just introduce yourself and say hi to our audience tonight?
Absolutely. Hello, Pastor Janisha. Thank you for having me again. And I'm so glad to see that the technology is feeling exactly as I feel because I was thinking about that too, that this is probably year 6 or so where I've had a chance to participate in a She Slays activity. And I still get nervous sitting amongst giants like yourself and Pastor Kimasha, Pastor Lisa Good, Prophetess Lisa Harris, you name it. And so I'm glad to know that the screen is having some stage fright too. But for
Mhm.
those who I haven't met before, my name is Minister Karina Stewart. I am so glad to be here. Glad to be able to spend some time with you all tonight and, of course, in October in Columbus. I hope you guys have registered. If not, it's not too late. Visit us at denishabonner.org and we'd love to see you there. But hopefully, something is said tonight that encourages you to come or to bring a friend.
Absolutely. So, guys, before we get started, y'all know what we like to say. Ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. So, we want to make sure that you let everybody know that we are live. They're already saying good evening in the chat, Minister Karina. They're already excited to hear what you had to say. But we want to make sure that everybody knows we're live. So, be sure to share this video on your social media page. Be sure to like the video. Be sure to subscribe to the page if you're not already following Denisha Bonner Ministries on either Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. Make sure that you're doing that. One, because we have a giveaway that's happening, a win your way to convergence. So you got to be following all of the pages. You got to make sure that you are tagging other people. Let them know that She Slays is coming up at Convergence 2026. So make sure that you are sharing tonight, that you're subscribing tonight. As always, let us know where you are watching from in the comments. Say if something's good or if you have a question, please put it in the comments. We want to make sure that we make this time memorable and exciting for you as well. I'm so excited. Um, I don't know if I've said this to you lately, but one of the things that I am so excited for the people to get to experience, Minister Karina, is your communication gift, right? Karina and I go way back. But one of the first things I noted about her, I said, "Oh, you're called to preach." And
Oh,
I
really?
love to hear you share, and I love to hear how God gives you concepts and ideas. So we want to make sure that everybody gets a little taste of what they're going to experience in Columbus, Ohio. So before we dive into it, let's get a couple more announcements out of the way because somebody asked us this last week. When is the conference and where is it, right? So it is Convergence 2026. It's going to be October 22nd through the 24th, and we will be in Columbus, Ohio, right? So me and Karina are both from
OH.
Ohio. My Ohio State shirt today in homage to the greatest state in the 50. Well, one of the top five, right? There might be a few that are better, but I'm rocking with Ohio. It's mine. I'm gonna stand beside it. So we're gonna be in Columbus, Ohio in October. And even while we're talking, we want you to register. So the ticker is scrolling across the bottom. You're gonna go to denishabonner.org/convergence and let's get together. So we're gonna have the men counter, they're gonna be doing their thing. She Slay's gonna be doing our thing, and we're gonna have a great time. And we don't want to do it without you. So, without any further ado, let's get into this. So, Minister Karina, just like we had with Pastor Lisa last week, you brought an item with you today. You have something that you're going to show us that speaks to um, you and or your message that you're going to share at this year's conference. And the theme for this year is arise, right?
Mhm.
Take from the scripture in Judges where Deborah sings a song and she said champions were hard to find, until I, Deborah, arose,
Yeah.
a mother in Israel. So our theme this year is Arise, and you are going to be speaking, and tell us what you brought today that speaks to what you're going to share.
Absolutely. So when you first told me about bringing something with us, I was like, what kind of scavenger hunt am I going to go on in my own home to be able to find something that can connect? And I'm really grateful because it was actually last night in bed, God was very clear about what it should be. And it's not going to be a surprise to you, Pastor Denisha, but I'm going to do my best to connect the
Okay.
dots. So I brought a kintsugi dish. Let me get it close
Yes.
to the camera so that you guys can see.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll notice something very specific about this dish. Not only the beautiful Tiffany blue color, the fact that it's porcelain, ceramic, right? But you'll notice the gold markings on it. And if you look even closer, you'll see that the gold markings are actually where this bowl has encountered damage. And so, if you don't mind, I just want to talk a little bit about why I
Please,
chose this.
please.
Beautiful. So, when I was initially thinking about what I would bring, um, I was really thinking that it needed to incorporate gold in some way. So my topic is out of the ashes. And when he first gave me the topic, I was like, wow, okay. And I knew that I was getting ready to enter a season that was going to look so unfamiliar to me, just with some things happening in my personal life. And it actually, the topic of Out of the Ashes has given me a lot of comfort this year because I knew that if nothing else, by October, God would have to give me a message to share about Out of the Ashes and coming out of the ashes. So let me tell you what kintsugi is. Kintsugi is a traditional Japanese art of repairing broken pottery. And instead of throwing away the vessel because it is damaged, or instead of trying to disguise the cracks that are in it, a skilled artisan will actually gather the broken pieces and carefully rejoin them using layers of a hard compound, right? So a lacquer usually. And the repaired pieces are then sealed together, and they're actually highlighted with precious metal, often gold. And what I love about that is, again, it's not trying to disguise the fact that something broke. It's not trying to disguise the fact that it's not in its original condition. It's actually highlighting those places where what was once broken is now resealed, it's now healed. And the other thing that I've learned about kintsugi is that traditional kintsugi is not a quick process. So it actually can require weeks or even months of meticulous work. And the pieces have to be cleaned and fitted together. And if there are missing areas, they actually have to be rebuilt. And so what happens is that skilled artisan will apply several layers of that hard compound, the lacquer, and each layer has to be given the right conditions and the right amount of time in order to cure, right? So a craftsman can't rush the process simply because the vessel wants to be useful again.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, the restored vessel can't, and instead, actually, the vessel becomes more precious once you add the liquid metal to it. And it's precious not just because it's broke, but not because it broke, but because it's healed, right? Because it's been restored. And it's actually the value of the restoration that reflects the skill of the craftsman,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the preciousness of the metals, and it's the time that it takes to build something like this that shows that it's worth investing. So, I really love this also because when you tie it back to Out of the Ashes, what's important here is God didn't discard us because something in life feels broken or because we live in a
Mm-hmm.
broken and fallen world. Instead,
Mm-hmm.
He gathers the pieces, He knows what belongs, and He fills in what's missing.
Mm-hmm.
And He patiently, layer after layer, applies what's needed for the healing to occur. And the other thing about kintsugi that I learned that I just have to note is that when a piece of pottery is made, it typically goes into the kiln or into the fire, an incredible intense heat that helps it to go from clay into a ceramic dish, right? And when you break a dish like this and you're putting it back together through kintsugi, you don't put it back in the fire. It's already survived its original firing. And so it's important that these dishes stay out of the fire, they stay out of the ashes. And so I think what's important to remember and why kintsugi reminds me of Out of the Ashes is It talks about something being broken. It talks about the fact that you can, even if you look like what you've been through, that doesn't devalue you. It actually enhances your value. And it's a reason and a reminder that you don't have to stay in the place that hurt you or in the condition that you were left in. So that's why I brought Kintsugi dish.
That is so powerful and that's so beautiful. And again, our shared love. I think it was you who taught me about Kintsugi and that idea. Um, we could go into that so much, but let me just ask really quickly because if my metaphor is working for me, how much more valuable is a piece that has been um remade this way? Like, what do these say? Do you know? Have you done any research on that? Like, what the going rate is for pieces like that?
Yeah, and it honestly varies. So what typically happens is for some pieces, the rate or the value of it will triple in value at times,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what's used to seal the cracks. But really, what makes the value of the dish increase is not the fact that it was broken and restored, it's the skill of the craftsman. And
Okay.
so, the more skilled the craftsman,
Uh-huh.
the more valuable the restored piece.
Mm-hmm. And Jesus is the master craftsman, right?
You see where I was going. You're picking up what I'm laying down.
It's on.
Yeah, so I mean that's exactly it. Jesus is the skilled craftsman, right? When you think about God as the potter and we are the clay, what makes us more valuable after we've been broken is the fact that we have a father who's willing to sit down and repair what's been broken and not always do it quickly. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a quick fix. It's not super glue, right? A broken dish that is repaired using super glue that can be fixed in seconds is actually worth less, right, than the original value of the item. But
Mm-hmm.
kintsugi, which requires skill, it requires precious material, and it requires time, it increases the value, it appreciates the value of the item over time. And so when you think about Jesus taking time to heal us and to restore us, when you think about the fact that it's not done in one effort, but it takes layer after layer after layer, but at the end you're more precious because you were broken, I think
Yeah.
it's so special.
Yeah, that's so good. So I hope y'all are taking this away. In the comments, they said walk heavy already, Karina. I don't know if you're seeing this. They're popping up, but she's already dropping some major wisdom, some gold, some nuggets about the process and what the value is. You said it can even triple
That's right.
after the master craftsman has done his good work in that process.
Yeah.
So as we think about not only that concept, but thinking about what you're going to share and to people who may be listening tonight, why does God often build our greatest strength from our places of pain? What do you think? What do you think about that?
I think that I wish I knew, but I don't. But what I do believe is that God doesn't necessarily have to cause every painful event in order for him to redeem it.
That's right.
And I know that, some fires come from our own decisions, some come from other people's choices, some come from loss that none of us would ever choose to endure. And some of it is just the result of living in a broken world. But all of it can be part of God's refining work, right? If fire is used to refine us and to refine things like gold, it can all be used for refinement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think pain is important because it exposes what comfort allows us to avoid, right? It
Mm-hmm.
reveals where we have placed our identity, and identity has been a big work and focus for me this year. But in revealing things about our identity, that also will reveal to us what we believe about God. It'll
Mm-hmm.
reveal to us what we've been carrying and what we can no longer allow to carry forward with us, like what has to be dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in in Peter 1, chapter 7, it compares the testing of faith to gold being refined through the fire. So again, I don't think God causes pain, but I think he can use painful things like the fires that happen in our lives to refine us and allow the impurities to be stripped away so that what's left behind is what's most precious. It's the gold. And I think that is why pain is often a part of some of the more memorable lessons. Not a part of every lesson, but definitely a part of the more memorable ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, what would you say to someone who might be feeling like they are the broken person right now? They're not seeing the gold yet. They're not seeing the end result, right? What would you say? What have you learned even through some of your seasons and your processes that would be maybe helpful to people who are listening today who are like, I hear you, but
That
I'm not.
sounds good, right? Like sounds good, but I'm feeling more held together by super glue, or there's some big pieces missing. I would
Mhm,
say same, sis, same.
mhm.
And quite honestly, I would say don't rush through the process. Just like we
Yeah.
talked about with kintsugi, it takes time. And I don't believe that we honor God by pretending that being in the fire didn't hurt. And
Mhm, mhm,
so if you don't feel like you are reflecting that pure gold just yet, it's it's a reality that you might still be in the fire. And I would also say that even as the fire burns away those impurities that become the ashes, it's important to realize that the ashes you're standing in are part of building your identity or part of restoring your identity. It's not a location, it's not a destination, it's part of a journey.
mhm,
And that at some point in your healing journey, you will get through that impurity process, that impurity stripping process, and you
mhm,
will start to feel like the gold that you are.
mhm,
Um, I think it's important during the season, and some things that I've been asking God and that I've been trying to remind myself are trying to figure out what are the things that I have to grieve about the life that I knew before the fire, and
mhm,
what are
mhm,
you trying to teach me? What do I have to learn while I'm in this space? Because truth be told, it's not something I want to repeat continuously, right? And then what are the things that I have to let go of and leave in the fire? Like, what are the
mhm.
things I have to stop trying to protect and allow the fire to consume?
All
And
right. Come on, come on.
and then, and not only that, I think the fire isn't just about stripping away, but it's also looking at what's surviving the fire. What is fireproof? Like, what is completely resistant to the fire? um, and and what does coming out of a fire look like? Because at some point you will get out, and you should start thinking about how this moment of being in the fire shapes your next steps.
Hmm. So you said there are certain things that you're grieving in this season,
Mhm.
certain things that you're letting go,
Mhm.
certain things that you're leaving in the fire.
Mhm.
We like our alliteration, so I'll say it a different way. And certain things you're leaving the fire with,
Yeah, absolutely.
and things that were fireproof, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So grieving, leaving, and you know we like to say, I'm from around the way. I'm leaving here with something.
With
There's
some, but with
things
the right things.
in the fire, and I'm leaving with the right things. How can people distinguish what those things are? What would you what have you used to even distinguish, and what can other people use to distinguish? What are the things we need to grieve? What are the things we need to let go? What are the things we need to leave in the fire? And what are the things we need to leave with because they were fireproof?
Yeah, I think when it comes to grieving and the things, I think the grieving comes naturally. I think it's evident the things that the fire prevents you from returning to. But I think it's also important to look at the source of the fire, the ignition of it, right? What sparked that fire to begin with? And if there's a certain area of your life, whether it be your identity and how you identify as a student, as an employee, as a parent, as a spouse, as a daughter, it's really important to understand where did that spark come from, and
Mm-hmm.
that's probably something you're going to have to end up grieving, because if that's where the fire started, guarantee. Actually, I was watching something the other day, and it was an arsonist special talking about how they can tell the point at where the fire started because, of course, it's burned the most, right? It's a part of a building that's had the most exposure to the fire, and so they can tell that that was the ignition point of the fire. And so looking at where it started, I think, is important because that's an area you're not going to be able to return to. When you think about the lessons you have to learn, I think it is what are the moments that make being in the fire more tolerable? And I'm still trying to figure out some of those moments myself. But what I've found is the moments that I let go of trying, I'll say this, the moments that I let go of the illusion of control, the
Mm-hmm.
illusion that I'm able to get myself out of the fire, the illusion that I'm able to extinguish the fire myself, are the moments where I'm able to be at peace in the fire,
Mhm.
right? I'm
Mhm.
able to allow the fire to do what it needs to do. And
Mhm.
that's where I start to learn the lessons of the things that I think God is wanting me to take with me. The things that I have to leave, they burn. Like
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
don't just burn up in the fire and get consumed by it, but they hurt to hold on to. They
Mhm.
hurt to hold on to. And so those are the things that you have to leave behind. And that can look like relationships. It can look like parts of your identity. Maybe you identified as someone who is depressed. Maybe you've identified as someone who's been abandoned. Maybe you identify as someone who is difficult to love. Let those things go. Those things
Yeah.
that hurt you, you have to let them go.
Yeah.
And then looking at what's surviving. And the good news is truth always survives. And
Mhm.
so the more we allow truth to survive and we start to let go of the lies and the things that hurt us, you'll see that the things that are surviving are the truth about what God thinks about you and what he feels about you. And so, I think one of the things that I wrote in my notes is that when you come out of the fire, you might not be ready to like run right away, right? You might have some smoke damage. You might have some healing to do. But arising begins with getting on your knees. It begins with standing. It begins with taking a first step. And eventually you get back to the place of running. And it's
Mhm.
a reminder that slow healing does not mean failed healing.
Come on, say that again.
Slowed healing does
Mhm.
not mean failed healing.
Mhm.
And unfinished does not mean forgotten.
Ooh.
And so
Okay,
for
hold on.
those
Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
I'm trying to move past it because I know it's good. No, no, I know it's good. So
Say
slow,
that again for the people in the back.
I'm gonna say it. I gotcha. So slow healing does not mean failed healing, and unfinished does not mean forgotten. Right?
Ooh,
I
that's
think
so
those are
good.
so important because so often we're in the fire longer than we want to be. We're not there alone is one thing, but like I think it's just so important to remember that the craftsman is taking his time,
Mhm.
taking his time.
Mhm. Yeah. Slow healing does not mean
Failed healing.
failed healing. And
Hmm.
unfinished does not mean forgotten.
You
I
got it.
need somebody to grab that by faith tonight. I need you to hear the Holy Spirit minister into you tonight. You might be feeling forgotten because your process is not finished.
Hmm.
You might be feeling like this has failed because it's still unhealed or
Hmm.
happening slowly.
Hmm.
But hear the Holy Ghost tonight. Unfinished does not mean forgotten.
Hmm.
Slow healing is still healing.
That's right.
That's right. Now, um, you talked about some of the things that need to die in the fire, some things that need to stay in the fire, like how we identify it, or things that are in direct contradiction to what God has said about us or
Right.
what He calls us. How do women stop identifying
Mm,
with or by what happened to them?
that's a really good question. I think it takes time, right? And I think it means that first we have to tell the truth about what's happened and how we got into the space of what's happening. I think freedom from it doesn't necessarily require denial, just as with kintsugi, it doesn't deny the fact that it was broken, right? But the fractures in the bowl don't necessarily identify or become the bull's entire identity. It's a part of
Yeah.
the bull's history, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that honesty is the first step towards freedom. And I think it's real for all of us as people too, right? So what happens to us might explain why I fear certain things or why I respond a certain way to certain situations, but it doesn't have authority to name me. Only
Mhm.
God does. And so I think for those who are struggling to stop identifying with the places where we've been burned, it's important that prayer is a big part of your journey. I think it
Mhm.
will lead the shift, and I think it will aid the shift and the healing that needs to take place. I think it requires scripture. I'm a big proponent of therapy, all the therapies. Got a whole team behind me. I think it requires wise counsel. And I think it requires an honest assessment of where boundaries need to be put in place and what choices we don't need to repeat in order to avoid staying in that broken place. And I think what's helpful about communities like She Slays is being in spaces where we're not allowing isolation to lie to us,
That's
or
right.
we can be in community and see that we all have some degree of brokenness. We all are our own beautiful vessel, kintsugi vessel in some way. We're not the only woman who's ever been wounded. And we're also not the only woman that God is willing to restore and to tend to and to nurture back to health and healing. And
Mm-hmm.
so, for those stuck in the identity of like a broken places or stuck in the fire, I would say um, be honest, spend time in prayer, and don't let the ashes again become your identity. Let it be a part of your journey.
Mm-hmm. Can you do me a favor? Hold the bowl up one more time.
Sure can.
Even if you just hold it like on the base, the bottom of your hand, if you
Mhm.
just held that up, right, no one would say that that's not a bowl,
Right, right.
right? It's a bowl.
Hmm.
We would say that's a bowl. We wouldn't say that's cracks.
Right.
We wouldn't say that's damaged. We would say, even if you said, hand me that bowl and it was sitting there, somebody would just pick it up and hand it to you.
Absolutely.
Right. And when you said that, it really caused me to consider how, again, we identify with pieces of our story, or we allow that thing to become the headline in the story, but the actual composition, the actual makeup, it's a bowl. Its
Right.
function, its purpose, its design, even put back together, is still a bowl.
Yep.
Right? Is it a blue bowl? Is it got gold in it? Is it got little flecks in it? Whatever the details of it does not change what it is.
Right.
And so when you just said that, I think that was so encouraging. And I hope, again, people who are listening are hearing that whatever has happened to you is not the sum total of who you are.
That's right.
And
You
that
don't
God,
have to be defined by the breaking, right? Like the cracks happen and you don't have to deny them, but you don't have to be defined by the breaking
that's
when
right.
you are defined by who you are and what you are.
That's so good. So we're not going to define ourselves by the breaking. We're going to define ourselves by what we actually are, who
Absolutely.
God says we are. Um, let's see. Um, if you have questions in the chat, by the way, feel free to put them in. A lot of comments. You're getting a lot of great comments, and I don't know if you can see them because I know when you're talking, sometimes you can get like caught up on making sure you don't mess up on your words. But in
Yeah.
the chat, they're really co-signing that they're receiving what you're saying. But if someone has a question for Minister Karina, or if you have something that you want us to address, please feel free to put it in the chat or the comments, and we will do our very best to respond to that. Um, we often talk about two things being true at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I can want to save money while want to splurge and shop this week, right? I
True.
can want to lose weight, but still also want to eat dessert, right? So two
Mm-hmm.
things can be true at the same time. Now having used that example, let's talk about the reality that healing and grieving can be happening at the same time.
Yep.
Healing and hurting can be happening at the
Mm-hmm.
same time. Feeling damaged and being repaired can be happening at the same time. Where have you seen that in your life or the lives of others? And how have you navigated those times when it has been a simultaneous, seemingly contradictory experience?
Yeah. Um, so again, like much of this, I'm still living it right now. And you're absolutely right that healing and grieving can occupy the same body. You can be healing and still miss what you lost.
Mm-hmm.
You can trust God and still have questions. I
Mm-hmm.
do. I have many. And you can experience joy and still have days where that grief sneaks up on you like it was the first day it occurred. And so I think what's important is to remember that healing doesn't have to mean that pain has completely disappeared. I think healing can mean that the pain is no longer the only voice that's speaking. It's no longer the voice that you're listening to. and you're able to recognize the truth that comes with the voice that is healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in my own life, I have been experiencing God helping me to grieve a season of identity that I was really attached to and that I'd spent a long time curating in the way that I wanted to. Even at times when I knew God was like, that's not who I want you to be, I'm like, but I'm pretty content with this path that I'm down.
Mm-hmm.
I've always interpreted Jeremiah 29:11 as like, for I know the plans we have built together and co-created and collaborated on, Lord. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
remember our brainstorm, God, and he's like, you literally weren't there for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have been in a season where I had asked God many times over that I recognized I was living, I was attempting to live a life that I had planned for myself and live under an identity that I wanted for myself and was more comfortable with. But I also wasn't getting satisfaction from it. And I no longer cared about the validation from others as far as if they thought that the life I was building was acceptable or not. And I wanted validation from God. And so he's been doing a good work and he has stripped away so many things that previously anchored my identity when it comes to job, finances, title, so many things that I used to anchor myself in who I was, to the extent that if people ask me to introduce myself, I struggle beyond my name. I'm like, I am Karina and I am here. And so I'm still learning this new identity. And in it, I am grieving what I lost. It's painful. That ending forced me to confront a difficult question about who I am and who God wants me to be. Um, and the reality is that while I'm grieving those things, I'm also healing. Some of
Mm-hmm.
the wounds are healing, they're turning to scars. And I'm not ashamed of the scars. I'm not hiding the scars by any means. And I'm grateful that the scars allow me to tell a very public story that might help others. But I think it's just a reminder that um, when you're healing and when you're grieving, it's important to know that an old identity can be burned away without destroying who God created you to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to know that grief doesn't discount the healing, and healing isn't dependent on the absence of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And so both can coexist. And I think God gives us enough grace of being human and spiritual beings that He allows our humanity to grieve. I think we've got to lean into the spiritual side of us that knows that healing is possible and
Mm-hmm.
that God's going to do it because He loves us.
Yeah. You said so many wonderful things that I want to just pick up a couple of things. One, you said that you are grieving an identity that you co-created, that you some
Attempted to.
some
Yeah.
plans that you and God collaborated on, right?
Right.
I imagine people listening can agree or can relate to that, where we have talked to God about our plans and then all of a sudden He didn't follow the script, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when God doesn't follow the script, right? That's, I'm sure we can all relate to that experience.
Group project, you know?
Right? And you talked about how there are some of these identities that we curated, not
Mm-hmm.
identities that He created,
Mm-hmm.
right? Something Pastor Lisa said when we were together in Florida, she talked about those controlled burns. And so we're not going to re-preach that. But when we think about that fire you're talking about, it sounds like there was some controlled burning away of those curated identities, not
Yeah.
the identity that He sent you here with, and the love of God to do that.
Yeah.
How much
Absolutely.
love God has to make sure that we don't just keep walking through life with these false identities, these wrong ways of seeing ourselves, especially when they are in direct opposition to what He says and what
Yeah.
He wants, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's hard at times, right? Like I
Mhm.
think for me and for many others, some of the hardest part of the process is the time that it takes, right? And it is acknowledging that there's only been this illusion that you were collaborating with God or that you were in control of the process. when you really ask God to get in there and to restore what He designed, get back to the original design that He created, um, you've got to be also ready for Him to do it His way. Like there
Mm.
are many moments where I'm like, all right, God, at this point, where is the super glue? Because like, do you have some tape? Do you have like, what are our options?
Yeah.
Because maybe the bowl doesn't have to be so deep. I could be a little shocked. Like, what can we do to move from this place?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think a lot of people know that I'm very career oriented and career focused, and I haven't received a paycheck since February 1st of this year, and have no idea necessarily what I'm going to do next for a job, and have just been partnering this time, actually partnering with God, but in the sense of letting Him lead and letting Him um, map out my steps and truly, falling in line. But it's hard. Like if it were up to me, I would know exactly where my next paycheck was coming from or how I'm going to pay bills in a few months from now or any of those things. But it's the waiting that is hard. And at the same time, the waiting has been so good. Like there are times where I'm like, oh, I should be really worried about this thing, and I'm like waiting for the anxiety to set in, and I'm like, why isn't it coming? Because like I should be worried, and I
Mm-hmm.
just feel God reminding me like, because anxiety is not your portion.
Come
Like
on. Come on.
anxiety is not your portion, and provision is my responsibility. And so I just am like, you're right, God, you and I are in covenant.
Mm-hmm.
I tithe. I have committed my journey to you. I've given you my yes. And
Mm-hmm.
even if it's a yes that cost me more than I thought I could afford, I thank God that I can never overdraft. I thank God that He can open up the windows of heaven. He has riches that have no end. And so I've got a daddy that I can lean on and say, hey, I need some help. And He has just been carrying me through the process, even if every 3 days I ask for super glue. He reminds me he reminds me that I deserve pure gold. And
Yeah.
so I'm waiting in the process. It takes time. He's going layer by layer. But when I tell you, I've had people come up to me and literally, people who've seen me regularly, people who haven't, they're like, you just glow differently. There's something so settled about you. And I don't even necessarily have the words other than I'm waiting on God. Like I'm in repair. Like I'm in the repair shop right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hard, but gosh, imagine
Mm-hmm.
my value being tripled 3 times when I come out.
Mm-hmm. Can y'all see can y'all get a little taste of what we gonna have in October? I'm over here like running out of paper, running out of to write down these notes and these things that you're saying that is so good. Got to go back and grab a couple of them. You said you have a covenant with God,
I do.
right? You have given him your yes. You've
Yep.
given him a yes that has been more costly than maybe you even wanted to,
Yeah.
but can never overdraft with
Can't.
God.
Yep. Cannot. And one of the things that's been sustaining me is something that one of my former therapists said, and his name's Pastor Mike Johnson. I promise him I give him credit, but he told me like at the end of the day, he gets what he wants from God because he gets yeses that he wants or knows that he can trust. And so in this season, every time I feel a break, every time I feel a new crack form, I recognize it's a no I can trust. And honestly, that no is going to be filled with pure gold. Like I
Mhm.
just envision the Holy Spirit as that molten gold going into that etched out place that's been carved out by the fracture and healing it and sealing it. And every time there's that brokenness, I know there's a value increase on the other side. And when I think about how his strength is made perfect in our weakness, like I'm made that much better because I continue to break in some places. And because the places in which he seals those broken parts, it makes me stronger than I was before and it makes me more valuable than I was before.
Oh, this is so good. I gotta go one more place, and then we're gonna get off these people's internet. But you said some days in the process you want the super glue. Some days you're ready to get out of the fire. But he reminds you that you deserve pure gold. Did
Mm-hmm.
y'all hear that when she said that? That God reminds her, and He's reminding us tonight too, that we deserve pure gold. We
Yeah.
don't need cheap stuff. We don't need cheap repair. We need the thing that's actually going to have sustainability and worth, and we deserve that. again, can you just speak to God's daughters that are listening tonight and tell them that what they really deserve?
Yeah, let me tell you, ladies, it is, you have a father who loves you unconditionally. And I know so often, and I'm saying this to myself as much as I'm saying it to all of you, it's so easy to think of God as like the best version of the best person we know, but his love is pure. And in Isaiah 61, verse 3, when he promises to give beauty for ashes, so beauty for the time that you spent in the fire, and oil for joy, oil of joy for mourning, and for trading the garment of, for giving you the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, he means it, right? He's willing to give you beauty for ashes, oil of joy for mourning, and the garment of praise for a spirit of heaviness. And what's special about that, and why I'm bringing it up, is because that word beauty in Hebrew, when you look at it, it really refers to a headdress, a garland, or a crown,
Come
right?
on.
And I feel like that's important because I think we think of ashes and being ashy and being dirty and looking like less than, looking like a pauper or a peasant. And in reality, that ash is evidence that you've been through your refinement process.
Mhm.
That beauty that you get to exchange for the ashes, that's a transaction. You get to exchange the ashes for beauty for your crown. So don't be discouraged by the fact that you might be in the fire and you see the ash being produced around you. Don't be discouraged by the fact that you might see some ashiness, right? And I'm not talking about the ashiness where you need some lotion, but the ash that's the residue, the things that needed to be burned off of you.
Mhm.
Because that is evidence of your crowning glory, right? Like it's coming. It's coming on the other side.
Mhm. Come on, props.
You see it.
I'm here for it. That is so good. Before I ask you to just say one last thing, guys, if you are again wondering why Minister Karina has been hanging with us from the first She Slays till now, this is why it's such a powerful vessel of God, and God has always used her to speak such powerful words. And I know that God is going to do the same when we get together in October at Convergence 2026. We are going to have a time. We are going to have a phenomenal time with the equal powerhouse. I know you said you're always grateful to get to sit among those who are giant, but you hold your weight right with them. You hold your you can stand right with them. And so if you've not done it, make sure you register. Tell your friends, bring a friend's friend. Don't let friends win alone. So make sure that y'all get to Columbus, Ohio in October. There's so much more that Minister Karina is going to share. There's so much more that the other ladies are going to share. And even when we have some of our joint times from the panel to the worship services, there's going to just be a pouring out of what God is going to do in our hearts. And I just can't wait to hear the completed message. I'm not going to pick her too deep because God saved some for October, because I know the Lord is going to continue to just unfold this revelation. Now, and let me just say this, Minister Karina, I'm really grateful for this moment, because one of the things that I think people can forget sometimes is that we don't always preach a message from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A lot of times we think that when people are ministering, it's because they're finished with it. They've gotten the victory. They're on the other side. But a lot of the time, David says this. Well, the scripture says this about David, said he encouraged himself in the Lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah said, "This I recall to mind, therefore I have hope." So there's a lot of times, even in the middle of our moment, we have to minister to ourselves and other people. And I hear that tonight as you were sharing, that you are not preaching this from I've been through it. You're preaching it to I'm going through. And I love that, because Paul says, follow me as I follow Christ, right? And I think that that's the beauty of community as well. You're not just having to be perfect and finished and polished. We can all look at each other and say, hey, this is happening, but let's do it together, right? The other powerful part about that is, what's our excuse? It's happening to her. I can do it too. If it's happening to her, God is with her. I can come out of it too. Paul says that nothing is happening to us except that which is common to man, right? So there are things that are going to be common, and the beautiful part is get to do it together, right? One of the
Absolutely.
things you often said is not a conference we attend, but it's a community that we're a part of. and being in community helps to even endure that fire. So I'm so grateful that you're a part of our community. I know the ladies have benefited from you every time. And again, I think that's why some of the comments in the chat are just going fire. People saying they love you, they can't wait to see you. It's going to be a great time to hear you share. So before we get ready to go tonight, what's the last word to the ladies who are listening tonight? Any last words that you would give them as we
Yeah,
get
and
say goodnight?
absolutely. In addition to, I can't wait to see you all there. I really hope that you not only register, but you don't let this be a best kept secret. You share it with others and you bring a friend. I just want to remind you, like Pastor Denisha said, I'm still in the fire too. And we have to let the craftsman take his time, that we are not less valuable because our restoration is taking time or potentially taking more time, and that one day the pieces that feel like evidence of our breaking, eventually they become the scars that testify that God met me here.
Mm-hmm.
The ashes tell us that there was a fire. The scars tell us that healing happened. The gold tell us that something precious survived. And coming out of all of that will tell us that we didn't remain where the burning happened. And so, together, I just want to remind us we don't have to carry our ashes as our identity. We can carry and choose to carry what God refined through the fire, the things that survive. And so, my ask and my prayer tonight is that you let Him gather the pieces, let Him apply every layer, let Him do the healing that He needs to do. Let Him take His time. And at the end of the day, let the gold testify, because when He says it's time to arise and come out, you will, and we
Mm-hmm.
will together.
Mm-hmm. Together, and we celebrate together, we win together, we cheer each other on together, and we can't wait to do that in October at Convergence. Mr. Karina, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Family, we're going to be back here next Monday with another one of our phenomenal speakers. I honestly forget who's next, but I know every Monday is going to be great because we don't have my squad is tight, my bench is strong. So it's going to be phenomenal. We pray that you have a phenomenal week this week. And whatever fire you might be feeling, whatever ashes you look around and see, just remember these words tonight. Remember that you deserve pure gold and that you are not in the fire by yourself. Not only is God with you, but we're with you. And there's a great cloud of witnesses that are cheering us all on from heaven's bandstand. So we love you all tonight. Thanks for joining us. Share this playback. Make sure you let other people know if they didn't see it live, they can go back and watch it on YouTube or Facebook. I don't think we made Instagram live tonight. There was a little glitch, but that's all right. Tell them, send them the link from YouTube, and we're gonna see you all next week. We love you so much. Have a phenomenal week.
Love you, ladies.